It starts in silence, a crowded room, laughter echoing, voices overlapping. But the empath woman isn't laughing. Her eyes scan faces, reading emotions like ancient scripts. Someone smiles too wide. Another avoids eye contact. A friend's tone falters for just a second. And she feels it. The hidden ache. The unspoken tension. The fear behind the mask. In a single heartbeat, she's inside their pain. And she doesn't even know how she got there. This is the strange burden of the empath woman. The unconscious ability to absorb what others repress. It's as if her emotional body has no armor. She's tuned to frequencies most people never hear. But here's the haunting truth. The gift that makes her so compassionate also makes her suffer. Carl Jung would say, she's identified too deeply with the archetype of the wounded healer, one who heals others by carrying their pain. But he'd also warn, when this archetype takes over the psyche, empathy turns into enmeshment. The boundaries blur. The self dissolves. Mini hook. But what if the pain she's carrying isn't just from this life? You see, empathic women often come from long lines of emotional caretakers. Mothers and grandmothers who survived by anticipating others' moods. Generational trauma doesn't only live in DNA, it lives in emotional patterns. From childhood, she learned that love means feeling everything, especially what others refuse to feel. So when her father was angry, she calmed him. When her mother was sad, she became her sunshine. When the house was tense, she became the peacekeeper. Little did she know, she was training her nervous system to absorb chaos, to make harmony out of heartbreak. And here's where Jung's shadow theory begins to unfold. The empath woman's shadow isn't darkness in the usual sense. It's her repressed selfhood, her anger, her selfish desires, her no. All the things she wasn't allowed to feel, she unconsciously traded for others' emotions. She became a container, not for her truth, but for everyone else's. Mini hook. But here's the part nobody tells you. When you absorb others' pain long enough, your body starts mistaking it for your own. That's why she wakes up heavy for no reason. Why she cries after being around someone who's fine. Why she can't explain why she's anxious, restless, or sad. Because energy, unprocessed emotion, doesn't disappear. It transfers. The empath doesn't just feel, she inherits. Carl Jung believed that every empathic person holds within them an unconscious magnet, a force that draws unhealed people toward them, not because they're weak, but because they radiate psychological safety. Their compassion acts like a mirror, and broken souls crave reflection. But what the empath woman forgets is that mirrors absorb dust too. She takes in everyone's fragments, the friend's heartbreak, the partner's anger, the parent's guilt, until she no longer knows which feelings belong to her. This is emotional possession, Jung would say, a psychological phenomenon where the psyche is overtaken by energies that do not belong to the conscious self. Mini hook. But here's where it gets even darker. The more she absorbs, the more invisible she becomes, because society doesn't reward her for her empathy. It uses it. She becomes the friend everyone vents to, the coworker who mediates conflict, the partner who heals without being asked. People say she's so understanding, but no one asks if she's okay, and in private, she's exhausted. Not just physically, spiritually. She starts to withdraw, questioning if she's broken. But she's not broken. She's overloaded. Her mind is trying to carry 1,000 stories that don't belong to her. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." For empath women, that reaction is constant, but she's the one who always dissolves. She dreams of oceans, storms, floods, symbols of emotional overwhelm. These are the unconscious cries for balance. The psyche is trying to cleanse itself, but she keeps resisting, mistaking release for abandonment. And so, the pattern continues. She meets people who are drawn to her light, but drain it. She offers healing, but receives confusion. She feels everything, but understands nothing about her own needs. Mini hook. Until one day, something breaks. It's usually after betrayal, or heartbreak, or when she realizes that no matter how much she gives, it's never enough. The empathy that once made her feel special now feels like a curse. She begins to question, why do I attract broken people? Why do I feel others' pain so deeply that it destroys me? And this is where her awakening begins. Because Jung would say, you cannot heal what you refuse to confront. Her suffering is not punishment, it's initiation, a sacred call from the unconscious saying, it's time to reclaim your energy. So she starts tracing her pain back to its origin. Childhood. The moment she learned that silence keeps the peace, that tears are too much, that her worth depends on how much she can fix. And there, buried under years of self-erasure, she finds the root of her empathy. Fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being unloved if she doesn't make others happy. Mini hook. But this is where the story changes. Because fear isn't the opposite of empathy. It's the beginning of understanding. She realizes that empathy, at its core, isn't about merging with others. It's about witnessing others without losing oneself. That's the shift Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. The empath woman's task is to differentiate between compassion and codependency, between caring for others and carrying others. Her journey now moves from absorption to awareness. And the moment she starts observing energy instead of owning it, something miraculous happens. The pain begins to move through her instead of staying stuck within her. There's a strange relief in realizing the pain was never entirely hers, that all the heaviness she carried, the tension in her chest, the sudden tears, the unexplained fatigue, might have been fragments of other people's unhealed shadows living inside her. But awareness, as Jung warned, is both illumination and confrontation. Because once you see where the darkness comes from, you can no longer pretend it isn't there. When an empath woman begins to awaken, she doesn't suddenly stop absorbing energy. No, she starts noticing it. The subtle shifts in her body when someone enters the room. The chill in her spine when someone hides anger behind a smile. The way her own mood mirrors the emotional climate around her. For most of her life, she mistook this for intuition. But Jung would say, this is projection. The psyche's way of expressing what it cannot hold internally. And this is where the inner battle begins. Because when an empath has spent years defining her identity through other people's emotions, she must now face the emptiness beneath all that noise. Mini hook. But here's the paradox she never saw coming. When she stops carrying others' pain, she feels lost without it. Her nervous system, conditioned to constant emotional alertness, mistakes peace for danger. Silence feels suspicious. Calm feels foreign. So without realizing it, she attracts chaos again. Not because she wants to suffer, but because her subconscious associates emotional intensity with love. Jung called this the repetition compulsion of the soul. The psyche's drive to recreate old wounds until they are understood. Every empath woman who finds herself drawn to troubled partners, manipulative friends, or energy-draining environments is, at some level, trying to rewrite her first wound. The belief that love must be earned through suffering. But here's where everything breaks open. She can't heal others to prove her worth. She must heal the part of herself that believes she's responsible for their healing. Mini hook. And that's where the shadow begins to whisper. The shadow says, if you stop helping, who will you be? It's a chilling question because for the empath woman, caretaking became her identity. She learned to survive by being indispensable, the emotional anchor in a sea of instability. Jung believed this identification with the healer archetype hides a deeper wound, an unconscious belief in one's own brokenness. In trying to fix others, she's secretly trying to fix herself. But when she begins to see this truth, guilt floods in. How can she draw boundaries when someone she loves is suffering? How can she say no when her heart screams yes? That's when she learns the most difficult lesson of all. Compassion without containment is self-destruction. Imagine her energy field as a cup. Every interaction pours something into it. Laughter, pain, desire, grief. But her cup has no walls. It overflows, spills into others, absorbs their mess. The only way to protect it isn't to close off love. It's to build edges, psychological edges, boundaries born not from fear but from self-respect. Mini hook. Because even light, when diffused without direction, loses its power. The empath woman's light must become focused, intentional. Jung would say she must integrate her animus, her inner masculine, the part of her psyche that provides structure, protection, and discernment. Only then can her feminine intuition flow safely. This inner union between sensitivity and strength is what transforms empathy from a burden into a gift. But this transformation demands confrontation. She must face the truth that some people do not want to be healed. Some prefer the comfort of their chaos. And when she tries to save them, she's not rescuing. She's enabling. This realization breaks her heart, because her empathy was always pure, born from love. But purity without wisdom becomes naivety. Jung's work reminds us that consciousness evolves through tension, between light and dark, love and power, giving and withholding. So, she begins to experiment with something radical. Emotional detachment. Not coldness, clarity. When someone around her feels pain, she now observes instead of absorbing. She breathes deeply, acknowledging, "This feeling is not mine." And though it feels foreign at first, almost cruel, she slowly notices that people's emotions no longer stick to her skin like they used to. Mini hook. And that's when she starts to see people for who they truly are, not who she needs them to be. Empaths often live in emotional illusion. They sense potential, not reality. They fall in love with what someone could become if only they healed. But this projection blinds them to who that person actually is. When the empath stops merging, her vision clears. She sees the manipulator hiding behind charm, the victim disguised as helplessness, the narcissist feeding on her validation. This clarity isn't comfortable. It's devastating. Because now she realizes how often she was used. How many times her love was mistaken for servitude. How her silence was interpreted as consent. But Jung would remind her, awakening always feels like betrayal to the parts of you that were asleep. So, she forgives herself, not because she was wrong to care, but because she didn't yet know she had a choice. And here lies the deeper transformation. The empath woman is no longer a vessel of others' pain. She's becoming a mirror of their unconscious. Her energy no longer absorbs. It reflects. And this reflection can be unsettling for those who live in denial. Mini hook. That's why, when she begins to awaken, people around her start to shift or disappear. Some retreat, unable to face the truth she embodies. Others attack, accusing her of being different, cold, or selfish. But what's really happening is this. Her boundaries disrupt their unconscious feeding patterns. They can no longer use her emotional energy as their refuge. This phase is the empath's dark night of the soul. Loneliness deepens before liberation arrives, but it's sacred loneliness, the kind that births authenticity. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For empath women, this means every emotionally draining relationship was never random. It was the unconscious calling her toward her own power, through pain. She begins to sense it now, the faint outline of who she was before she carried everyone else's suffering. The woman underneath the healer, the soul beneath the servant, the truth behind the tears. And as her awareness expands, so does her energy. The heaviness starts to lift. Her empathy no longer feels like drowning. It feels like deep sea diving. Intentional, controlled, purposeful, mini hook. But the greatest test still lies ahead. What happens when she must choose between love and freedom? It always comes down to this moment, the crossroads between love and liberation. The empath woman stands here trembling, not because she doesn't know which path to take, but because both roads seem to lead to loss. If she stays, she risks drowning again in the emotional tides of others. If she walks away, she must face the echoing silence of her own soul. Jung would call this the battle between attachment and individuation, the painful process of separating the self from everything that once defined it. But here's what no one tells her. Individuation isn't about becoming detached from love. It's about learning to love without disappearing. For the empath woman, this lesson feels like walking barefoot across fire. Her instincts scream to heal, to hold, to merge. It's how she survived. But now, her soul whispers a new command: protect the sanctuary within. It's not an act of selfishness. It's an act of spiritual maturity. She begins to notice the patterns of her past, the moments where she felt responsible for fixing what she didn't break, the countless times she carried other people's emotional weight, believing it was her purpose. But now she sees the illusion. It wasn't empathy that bound her. It was fear. Fear of being unneeded, unloved, unseen. Mini-hook. And that's when she realizes something terrifying. Without pain, she no longer knows who she is. It's the paradox of the empath. Her gift is sensitivity, but her identity has been constructed around suffering. To heal, she must dismantle the house built from sorrow and rebuild from truth. But to do that, she must face the ghosts that live inside her, not the ones in others. In Jungian terms, she must descend into her own shadow, the place where her repressed anger, jealousy, and resentment live. The parts of her that say, "I'm tired of always giving," or "I want to be seen too." She's been taught to label these emotions as wrong, unspiritual, or unkind. But they are her repressed truths, her psyche's cry for wholeness. When she finally lets herself feel them, it's not pretty. The empath's tears turn from compassion into rage, not at others, but at the years she betrayed her own soul in the name of kindness. Jung wrote that what you resist not only persists but grows in size. Every time she denied her anger, it grew stronger in her unconscious, guiding her toward relationships that mirrored it back. Every narcissist, every manipulator, every energy thief, they were all teachers pointing her toward the unspoken no buried in her chest. Mini-hook. And when that no finally escapes her lips, everything changes. The world around her trembles. People accustomed to her softness recoil. They call her difficult, cold, changed, but she doesn't explain anymore. Because she knows this transformation isn't meant to be understood by everyone. It's meant to be embodied. This is where the empath woman crosses the threshold from savior to sovereign. Her empathy no longer seeks validation. It seeks truth. She doesn't heal to feel needed. She heals because it's her nature. But now she offers it from overflow, not emptiness. In Jungian language, she's integrating herself, the totality of her psyche, where the conscious and unconscious finally unite. And that union feels like coming home to herself. For the first time, she realizes she can care without collapsing, love without losing, give without guilt. But with power comes responsibility. And her new energy, grounded, luminous, unapologetic, acts like a mirror to those still lost in their shadows. Some people will be drawn to her like moths to light. Others will retreat, unable to face what her clarity reveals in them. Mini-hook. Because light doesn't just illuminate beauty, it exposes the truth hiding beneath it. And the empath woman's truth is radiant. She has walked through the underworld of human emotion and returned not as a martyr, but as a guide. The wounded healer has become the conscious healer. The difference is subtle but profound. The wounded healer heals to fix her pain. The conscious healer heals because she has made peace with it. In this state, her empathy transforms into wisdom. She senses suffering, but she no longer personalizes it. She observes emotional energy as information, not identity. Her boundaries are intuitive, her presence magnetic. People feel calm around her, not because she absorbs their darkness, but because she doesn't feed it. This is the silent power of the awakened empath woman. She doesn't try to change anyone. She simply embodies alignment, and that energy speaks louder than words. Jung described this as the power of the integrated self, the soul that has faced its darkness and chosen consciousness over comfort. But make no mistake, This peace wasn't born from light alone. It was forged in shadow. The empath woman had to die to her old self, to the version who believed love meant sacrifice. Now she loves differently, fiercely but freely. She knows that not every soul deserves full access to her light. Some must stay outside the gates, not as punishment, but as protection. Because she finally understands the sacred economy of energy. Everything you give away unconsciously will eventually cost your peace. Mini hook and peace, she's learned, is the rarest currency of all. Her presence changes everything now. Conversations feel deeper, but fewer. Connections feel rarer, but real. She attracts those who vibrate in truth, not need. People sense the strength behind her softness and the stillness behind her empathy. She doesn't have to explain who she is anymore. Her energy speaks for her. But there's still one lingering test. The world will keep trying to pull her back into its chaos. People will come with sad stories, heavy hearts, desperate eyes. Her old reflex to save will stir. But now, instead of saying, "Let me carry that for you," she says, "You are capable of carrying it yourself." That's when her empathy becomes empowerment. Her compassion becomes catalytic. Her love becomes medicine. Not because it soothes others' pain, but because it awakens their strength. Jung would call this individuation's final revelation. True empathy is not absorption. It's awareness. It's the ability to stand in love without losing the self. And as she walks forward into this new life, quieter, wiser, freer, she carries a power the world desperately needs. A power that heals not by rescuing, but by reminding others of their own inner light. Mini hook. But the world isn't ready for all of her yet. And that's exactly why she's here.